But are there any questions anyone's going to ask?
Can I just say something that struck me about what Emma said? And it just reminded me, like, the older people here will maybe have more to say about this, but there was a golden age in Britain in the 90s where we were getting just what now seem like ridiculous budgets to make short independent films for Channel 4 and for the schemes run by Channel 4. And it was a real golden age and wonderful films came out of that. But then there was a moment when that went. And I remember a lot of conversations sitting around with animators going, well, can't make any work now. Oh, we're not going to make any. Meanwhile, the younger people who hadn't experienced that were just coming out of college and just making work anyway. And just, you know, because they were animators, they were animating. And I think for some of us, it was difficult to get back in a frame of mind where we could make just short throwaway pieces just for ourselves.
Because you felt like you were suddenly becoming an amateur instead of being professional, I think, and I think there's quite a lot of stigma. And someone said something very snidey to me the other day about the fact that I try and make my own work, and it's almost like, you know, like by sort of focusing on trying to be creative and not necessarily always getting money for it, you're then seen as some person that has that luxury to do that, which isn't necessarily the case with a lot of people. People forget that that there's a lot of, okay, so we are privileged. Anyone that makes art is privileged in relation to the whole global scene, but you know that life isn't just simply about commerce, and I think, you know, that obviously it was very hard for us to sort of think, well, we're getting films that were £80,000 for a 5 or 6 minute film, which was reasonable money. We still made a loss, incidentally, on every film we did. We were down always about 11 grand at the end of the project, because animation is very expensive. But then going from that to complete nothing, you have to then sort of reinvent yourself. That's why I did books for 7 years. I was doing books when my kids were small. But then the other really difficult thing, apart from the lack of funding, is coming back into the industry as a woman who's had 2 children. And that is really difficult, and older, much older. Then you have another set of challenges. So what do? You sit there and you make fucking random person, but then you hope that someone might take you seriously enough to get onto what you wanted to do when you finished doing those Channel 4 films in the 90s. But unfortunately, by that, you know, it takes so long to develop big projects, and the older you get, the harder it is to sell those to the kinds of people who are commissioning, who are going to be commissioning more like their own age group, which are going to be 30. So
I think there's definitely a loss, but then also, I mean, it was kind of this 1 minute thing that Martin's curated is kind of one. It's also wonderful to see these sort of almost throwaway energy put into these little short pieces, which are not, you know, there's not so much at stake somehow, and there's a great freedom there. I'm just trying to make something positive out of something that kind of isn't.
I think it was great
totally
to see the programme, and I think we have a lot to thank Martin for, actually, because the whole thing is very successfully curated, shows a lot of very skillful filmmakers. You know, some of the work, you know, nearly all the work is of a very high standard. You know, it just has, and it has that sort of there's a diversity to the work, and as you say, because people weren't getting money for most of it, you know, it's just what they felt like doing. So it's got a spontaneity which I think is great. So I think Martin probably deserves a big round of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.